everybody, welcome back to Southfield. You might be looking at this picture right now and wondering where exactly in Southfield this particular scene is located. Well, the fact of the matter is that we're actually not in Southfield. So I would like to take this opportunity and welcome everyone to the first official tour of the lower level of the SouthField subdivision. Lower level has been slowly under construction since probably 2017, if I'm not mistaken, is when I came up with this idea. And I haven't been doing very much on it, but this year, lately, for some reason, I decided that I wanted to get back into it. So here's where we are. I apologize in advance for any dogs upstairs that are barking. They're waiting for their mom to come home, and they're literally barking at every car that's driving up and down the street. So we're going to be hearing a lot of that over the next couple of minutes. So quick tour of what's going on here. Let's do an overview so you guys know where we actually are. So here's downtown Southfield. I'm going to try to move this camera moderately slowly. This is the helix, obviously, as you can see down there. So looking at the helix, we've got a track that exits the helix right here, goes through that temporary opening, and emerges on the east side of the scenic portion of the lower level. Pardon all the LED lights. I'm experimenting with various lighting systems down here. So as we enter the lower level on the east end, we are going to go through a small town of Smithwick, South Dakota. Yes, we definitely changed states. Southfield is in Nebraska. Here we're going to be in South Dakota. So this is an actual real town. I'll try to throw a picture of it in here. It's a very small town, very small population. But it is a town that for some reason just always appealed to me, so I decided I wanted to model it. So it's going to be a somewhat prototypical modeling here with some modeler's license just due to space constraints. So, but this is basically going to be the very small downtown of Smithwick, South Dakota. Following Railway West, we are going to continue to make this turn here. There's going to be a local track behind it. It's going to be cattle pens and a grain elevator back here, along with possibly some other smaller industries. So as we make the turn and continue heading Railway West, this particular area here doesn't have anything on it just yet, but this is going to be kind of a Black Hills country type of country running, just Black Hills of South Dakota, really is the best way to put it. So that building won't be there. That's just a mock-up. So that's going to run to right about here. And here is going to be a scenic divider, highway overpass type of situation. So this is going to be more of a country scene. And then on the other end of this divider is going to be a residential area without the mantle clock in it. Okay, so from the area where the Black Hills country and the scenic divider end right here, we're going to be entering a different town, and we're actually going to be changing states again. We are going to be entering into what's called Jeffersonville, Iowa. So this residential area, starting with this row of buildings or houses, is going to be the beginning of Jeffersonville, Iowa, which is going to occupy the majority of the rest of the lower level. So we're going to have a row of houses, suburban style houses, behind a single track main line here, the main line will at that point curve off towards the back end of the layout and make a turn behind Main Street, Jeffersonville right here. So no lighting is set up down here yet, but hopefully this turns out pretty decently. So downtown Jeffersonville, main line is running behind it. If you follow that blue tape back there, and the main line then continues going that way into a hole in the wall. Other than that, right here, we're going to have a spur track, a local track, branch off of the main line and run the whole length of the west wall in my basement, which we're dealing with 29 feet here. And this is basically the majority of Jeffersonville, Iowa. So there's going to be a number of small town type of industries here. We got a mill, number of grain elevators, things along those lines. industry I'm mocking up over here. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do here yet. Some grade crossings. And this area right here used to be a closet here in the basement that is now used to support the upper level of the benchwork. I wasn't planning on building a lower level in this area, so I never bothered to take that out. So now I'm going to have to kind of work around it, which is fine. I've got some interesting ideas on how to work around that. Then as we keep going Railway West, we've got the Jeffersonville Freight Depot that I just assembled. We're going to have a depot there. Obviously not that one. It's going to be an AMB laser cut kit. And we're going to have a number of grain elevators over here and a number of typical small town industries. Towards the end over there, it's a propane dealer all the way down there. And in the foreground over here, you can see that we've got 2 tracks. Now, I'm not 100% sure if there's going to be 2 or 3 tracks here, but these are interchange tracks. What's going to happen with these tracks, my operating strategy, so to say, for the lower level here, is I'm going to have off layout storage, what I call it, OLS. I'm going to build drawers that are going to be sitting right around here, where I am going to store rolling stock because I have too much of it for the layout. I'm going to store the rolling stock in these drawers, and these 2 tracks that are going to be here are going to provide me with the opportunity of interchanging cars to off layout storage, OLS. So I'll be able to send a train down here from Southfield Yard or from other imaginary destinations. And once I cut the cars off on these 2 interchange tracks, I'll be able to basically just take them off, put them in the drawers, and store them there until the next time I choose to use them, and then put fresh cars from those drawers onto these tracks and roll them back out onto the layout on the next outbound way freight. So the simpler solution, I think, to a large staging yard, just because I don't really have the space to build a large staging yard, and I don't mind taking the cars off the layout by hand and just putting them in the drawers. It's not a big deal. So continuing Railway West, we're going to go to an area where the benchwork isn't completed yet. So I still have to do benchwork on this entire wall here. I just kind of got that piece right there mocked up just so I can try to get a track plan going there. You can see that the main line continues to go around the outer perimeter right there, makes the turn, and all this stuff over here is just some mocked up local tracks and spur tracks that I'm working on. So as I said in one of my earlier videos, I am definitely a 1-to-1 scale modeler. I don't know if that's a thing, but that's what I call it. And I don't like to draw it on paper. I don't like to use any kind of software to design it. I just like to build the benchwork to the limits of what my space allows. And then literally, I take track and I take green tape. And I design the track plan and the general layout of the layout to my liking in real scale, 1-to-1. So this initially is 24 inches from here to here. And I realized that that wasn't quite enough because that's the main line back there, and I really need a couple more inches back there. So I've decided that by the time that I get down here, I'm at 27 inches, and that makes more sense. So now I have to redo this to be 27 inches. So sometimes it's a little bit of guess and check, and that does take a little bit more time, cost a little bit more money, but I find pleasure in designing it this way. It's the easiest way that I can think of because I can see it in real life, so to say. So, couple of things to point out. I guess the elephants that are in the room are these giant 2x4s in the middle of my layout. So these 2x4s are the support legs for the upper level or the main level. And once again, the lower level was never really designed to be this big, or here for that matter. So I never really designed the legs for the lower level. So if we go back, panning slowly here, if we go back to this side, we can see that here are the legs that are supporting it, and these are set at 21 inches from the fascia. So we got 21 inches in depth here, and the main level here is 36 inches. So I got 15 inches behind these legs to the wall in case I need to get access back there for any reason whatsoever. But really the main reason for that is because I don't have any way of hiding these legs. So the backdrop is going to go right in front of the legs, and therefore we're not going to see them, obviously. So this is going to be a residential area, you know, small town area. You know, can't really hide any legs. No legs over there because it's supported in a corner. So that's a nice thing. That's what allowed me to make this area quite a bit deeper than 21 inches. Now, on this side, and going further down that way through the Jeffersonville industrial area, I guess you would call it, I have these legs and they're in the middle of my bench work. Why? Because I can hide them. So that's the way that I look at it. This allows me to have 27 inches is what I'm planning on for depth here. And this leg, in this particular case, is set back, I believe this is 18 inches back or 20 inches back from the front of the layout. And that Walters Prairie Co-op, Prairie Grain Co-op, whatever it's called, that building is pretty much designed to literally engulf a 2x4. So it needs a little bit of modification back there. That's no problem. I'll be able to handle that. I'm going to paint the leg, obviously, sky blue, just like the rest of the backdrop is going to be. And also keep in mind that this building, along with everything else, is going to be 2 inches higher than it is right now because it's going to be set on 2-inch pink foam. So that means that the gap between here and here is going to be even less. So I'm not horribly worried about it. I think that this is a pretty good way to get a lot more depth for my purposes. And, you know, sometimes you got to have a pole or some sort of a ceiling support in the middle of your layout, and you just got to work that into your scenery. And that's kind of what I'm doing here. So we've got that. And then over here, we've got a very similar thing where this is Medusa cement, and I'm cutting it and carving it to go around this particular 2x4 support. Then the inside of this area is going to have a backdrop on it, painted over, and I'm going to hide the track into it with some trees and just, you know, normal scenery stuff. Then there's going to be a backdrop coming around here. And then same thing over here, and that's why the freight office is right here, because it's being used to hide that 2x4 as best as possible. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll do the job. And there's going to be enough scenery around it to kind of draw your eyes away from it. And then moving down the line, these two grain elevators, same thing. This is the Farmers grain elevator from Walters, Farmers Co-op or whatever it's called. And it takes a 2x4 and just literally covers it up. Once again, it's going to be on 2 inches of foam, so it's going to be a little bit higher, so this gap will be less. So you'll see less of that 2x4. I've got 2 of these 2x4s, which is why I have 2 of these grain elevators. So the grain elevators are going to basically just envelop the 2x4s. The main line here is going to run behind the grain elevators that are surrounding these 2x4s, and most of the scenery and most of the visual effects are going to be in the front over here. The switching of all these local industries and the interchange with the off layout storage and things like that are going to be in the foreground, while the main line is in the background. Therefore, you can just let a train run along the main line and just do local switching up front. So hopefully I haven't lost everybody by now, but right now we are underneath the diesel shops in Southfield, and this is the end of the west wall in the basement. So we have the propane dealer here, and then we've got the main line in the background that's going to curve. And like I said, this area still needs bench work, but what's going to end up happening here is this main line is going to curve and come out this way right here. That would put it directly below this scene in the West End Road on the main level. So in this area, I plan on having turntable, roundhouse, various older style engine service facilities for the town of Jeffersonville. So then after that, it gets a little bit tricky, but let's see if I can describe it. So here is the duck under that I have in order to get under the layout from the basement. I'm sorry, under the layout from the stairs. So in this area for the lower level, we are going to have a swing out bridge, so you can duck under the main level, with the swing out bridge being moved out of the way. And the rest of this is probably going to be too hard to actually understand without seeing it. But what's going to happen is, if you bear with me, if you just follow the phone, we are now disappearing underneath the scene that is this scene, which is where Peter Epstein Pontiac is. This is the peninsula of the layout. Clayton River is down that way. Clayton River is, right there. So we are disappearing underneath that area, and look what we see under there. That's the helix. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to have a Y. I'm going to have one track of this Y going off to the right to join the helix, and one track going off to the left to join the helix on the other end. And if you can see that track right there that ends towards the left side of the screen, that's one of the tracks. And the second track is going to go that way, kind of where the trailer is on that TOFC car. But it's just not there yet. I haven't built that far yet. So this Y down here is going to allow me to be able to run a train continuous on the main level or on the lower level. So it's basically the same kind of design of a track plan that I have on the main level, just copied on the lower level now. So if we were to take a look at this switch chart, the main level, we've got the two turnouts up front over here on the visible area. Turnout number 1, turnout number 2, that makes a Y. The third one's inside the helix. And that's what we have there. And on the lower level, this is what we're going to have, which is basically the same kind of concept, only in a slightly different configuration. But what it does allow is for continuous running eastbound or westbound on the main level and on the lower level, and an entry into the helix, no matter whether you're going eastbound or westbound on the main level or on the lower level. Meaning basically, the way that I see it, pretty much infinite choices of which way you want to go. You can go a full round eastbound on the lower level, enter the helix, and then come out on the main level, either eastbound or westbound because of the Y, and then vice versa. And then just continually do that until you get bored of doing that. So that's the way that I kind of designed that. The main level works so far, the design of it. The lower level, once it's built, I have a feeling will work probably just as well. In theory, I think it does work. So that is where we are. So the deck height of the main level is 46 inches and the lower level is at 24 inches from the ground, which is definitely a little bit on the lower side, but for something that was never designed to actually be there, and now it's just a whole bonus second layout basically, I think that I can live with that. What I've done is I've procured myself that chair right there, which makes it pretty much perfect to sit and work and operate on the lower level here. And other than that, construction of it is pretty good. Just sitting on that chair, you can lean right over. It's basically like sitting at a table or a desk, just a little bit on the lower end. So the goal for the actual continuation of the bench work, this portion of Smithwick was completed in about 2017. So I've got 2-inch pink foam as my base, and that's my goal is to run that around the whole layout. Basically then giving me an opening between the actual track and the bottom of the fascia on the main level of about 18 inches, which I think is a, sorry about the focus there, a very good amount, whereas it's enough so you can look at it and it looks nice, but at the same time not too tall and keeping it at a good level off the ground itself. I will have the same kind of fascia that I have here made out of polite, painted the same color down here, covering up this area as well, and a curtain down below it. So it'll be a good museum type of presentable appearance all the way around. So that's still a little ways off, but working on it slowly. So then backdrop, you know, It's going to be painted blue and then probably be a photo backdrop. I was experimenting with some photo backdrops down here a number of years ago. I don't think that the actual picture is correct for what I'm looking for. It seems like too far away or too close. So still need to work on that. But that's basically where we are. That's the lower level. It allows me to basically double the size of my layout without building a bigger layout. So once again, just a pretty quick overview here. This is the helix and lower level locations as compared to the main level locations. We got Harris Mill Junction right here, right above Smithwick, South Dakota. Then downtown Southfield, that's going to be on top of the area where the Black Hills division is going to be. Then we've got downtown Southfield, Main Street, above the residential area of Jeffersonville. And then we've got the actual Main Street of Jeffersonville. That's going to be just below this particular scene here. And then this whole west wall is Southfield Yard, which in this particular case will now be the Jeffersonville industrial area, so to say. Basically, majority of the town of Jeffersonville. So there you have it, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed the first official tour of the lower level of the SouthField subdivision in the town of Jeffersonville, Iowa, and Smithwick, South Dakota. More to come on this, hopefully in the next couple of weeks or months. Definitely a long-term project, and the weather is going to be getting better slowly, so there's going to be some more outdoor activities. But I model railroad year-round, so we're just going to keep moving right along. Thanks for watching.